You're tough. You can handle it. It went
we're
live.
Don't talk about
It doesn't seem. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a possibility at the minute, does it? It's just me and him.
Yeah.
And he said Lilium ha. And I can say that I better shut that. Don't want any of you seeing that before I do this. Which one?
Is it your OnlyFans account?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is. Is it this one? Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you wanted to say about Linium, but this fellow here has got very hot under the collar. If I put the right one up, I have. About their chances. And lots of people are answering in German about why he's wrong and why, it's things he says, electrification of aviation most promising path to decarbonisation. You're not sure about that. Private investors.
Yeah, as long as electricity is still created from coal and oil.
Yeah, well, but moving 6 people at a time is not going to help, is it? Really? And I don't think it's 6; it's 4, isn't it? Look, has over 1,000
I'm sure there's a lot of CO2 emitted during the cremation of the bodies.
Absolutely. Well, D-Day is tomorrow for them, isn't it? Or the day after tomorrow for you, Wednesday. If they don't get the money tomorrow, or if they already told them they're not getting it, I might be out of the loop in the last hour.
I don't know. I've just sniffed the rumours, and that the government lifeline has collapsed, so they're up Shite Creek without a paddle.
Well, that's it. And how they still...
My shares in the shirt industry are paying huge amounts of money.
The lost shirts.
Everyone needs new shirts. Everyone needs new shirts. They've lost them. Yeah.
They've lost their shirts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's no surprise at all. And the other one that's picking up traction, I won't bother going to the LinkedIn feed, is Volocopter. And they're pivoting to or making a big noise about becoming flying ambulances. And people are busy pointing out that they don't have anything that can fly. It's much bigger than a search and rescue helicopter, etc., 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 etc. So it's, I have, Simon, I've seen the new UKCA cap document about BV loss. I've got to read it properly, but I have seen that, Simon. And of course, Kalay, the industry is open for everybody. Everything's going to be marvelous and everyone's going to be super wealthy. I think that's basically the end of that story. I don't know. We'll have to...
If Cooper's and Lybrand be writing something...
Yeah, well, it is, again, it is kind of deja vu all over again. A lot of the things we're seeing, as in fact, let's put that up. The thumbnail I used made me laugh in some ways. I mean, it's not a funny topic, especially when that flying wing's got that munition. Hey, how often have you bungee launched a wing and it's gone horribly wrong? I know for me, I've managed to do it a few times.
I wonder how long the bungee originally was before they blew most of it up.
Well, quite, and obviously that propeller can't turn until it's clear of the bungee.
There's an issue there, isn't it?
It is, and it looks like it's going to smack the front of that thing as
well.
Is
this AI or stage?
No. There they are. No. So good on Ukraine.
And that kamikaze. Where do they put the pilot? Where does the pilot fit in there?
Exactly. Well, quite so.
Well, Japanese, they're quite small, aren't they?
And they only come up to your knees.
Chinese.
Is it? I thought good luck to them. Well, let's watch the video, shall we? Let's see what we can see to the...
flash, man.
It'll have that sort of music, isn't it?
Yeah. It's...
What are those blue... Who makes those?
This looks like it's been done by a BBC Top Gear.
Yeah.
With all the lights and show the profiles and everything, here we go on Sunday, out to the field on a Sunday for a fly.
Got
the BMFA membership in that box there.
That's right. Got the remote ID and everything.
Yes. You're going to launch it amongst those trees, seriously.
Well,
quite. You have to knife edge it through the trees, do you? What's going on there? Radio Master for the win.
Radio Master.
Oh, now it's just frozen. No, there we go. Look. Oh, yes. Don't drop it. Whatever you do, don't drop it. I'm walking backwards for Christmas. Look at that.
Yeah, it's but But it's
Well, it was a whole
we've
lot
all
of nothing,
flown.
wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, boom, and all that sort of a thing. But what amused me again, as ever, on LinkedIn, was the way people started screaming and shouting about, oh, look at this new way of doing things. Oh, this is amazing. How do they make them? Walla 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 walla. I'm thinking, well,
Yeah, but
we've
you're
all been
talking
flying them
LinkedIn. I
for
mean,
years.
the big discussion on LinkedIn is, ooh, shiny. That's sort of the
Oh
world
yeah,
of LinkedIn, isn't it?
it is. It is.
But it's Facebook. It's
Very much.
kitten.
It's true. Yeah, you probably can segment them all up exactly by some or other form, can't you? Some or other thing. But it astonishes me. It's how you launch your AR Pro. Yes, Johnny, it's friendlies of BMFA drone flyers. That's also true, Simon. You're exactly right. BMFA HQ. It yeah, it never ceases to amaze me how people reinvent the wheel in these places. They just continuously reinvent the wheel as if it's never happened before. And you wonder if they put the prop on the nose because it would make it considerably quieter than having it on the tail. Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Really, if you're driving a tank or something, can you hear anything coming?
No, unless you turn the radio down.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, yeah. If you did throw that at his feet, I was arming protections and a cap. So if you did throw it at feet, okay. Yeah.
Well, what if he took his cap off?
Quite so. Do the last mesh on it and Radio Master. Ooh, MTV. That is a very interesting question. Very interesting. But I thought he, when we had that chap from Doodle Labs on, I thought he held his questions well. He certainly seemed to know his stuff. But yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know how many of those things, those X-Cross things, are in the wild yet. Are they very popular yet?
No, but remember when military spec was a license to make money? Everything mil spec is 1,000 times more expensive, and we've got to have this to this level and temperature control. Now we've got Radio Masters in the field. It's like the cheapest, one of the cheapest consumer grade radio control transmitters is doing the job very nicely. Thank you. So why the hell are we paying Raytheon and all the others so much money for all their expensive stuff?
Well, yeah, and the UK's announcement that it's going to be making, the words you like, suicidal kamikaze drones a month, a whole 20 a month.
But even like the replicator thing and that, do these people not realize how quickly this technology is evolving? If you make 1 million drones today and you don't use them in the next year, they're out of date. I mean, you won't even be able to update the flight controllers anymore because that company will have gone out of business or something. It's like, why would you bother? Because they can be made so very quickly. Surely you just have to have that sort of on-demand manufacturing capability rather than building stockpiles of things that ultimately will just be consigned to landfills.
And what you're saying about the data rate higher on the significantly higher? Probably.
Yeah, you said megabits or something. But do you need a higher data rate if you're using it for your control link? And if you've got a separate video link, you don't need a high.
Yeah, well, what's the thing about perfection against good enough or something? There's that famous phrase.
Perfection is the enemy of near enough. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly what you've. I'm no doubt the Doodle Labs things would be way more reliable over time, but if you're using the thing once, it's
it only has to be reliable enough to get to the scene of the crash.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd be very surprised. I know Ian's ill. I don't know where the others are. I know Ian is ill.
Been ill. They put that on his tombstone, didn't they? I told you I was ill.
I told you I was ill. Yeah, so I think he might have a bit of a COVID cold. So all the best to him.
Or he has some plutonium in his tea, thanks to the UK government.
Well, it could be that, couldn't it? I know I know things are getting very interesting in the who's going to make the movie department. And Monday was a big day for that, so that's quite cool. So things are moving forward with that, and he's probably got to keep his head down a little bit from various places for other things that happen. Well, no, just for not inadvertently saying stuff, but the replicator, I'm not sure why they're not saying it's failed. I don't understand by this. Everyone's still proclaiming it's the best thing, and all the guys that were bringing out the gear at the AUSA show, is it in America? All the mil spec versions of what we're seeing in Ukraine, they didn't really have anything exciting or new or groundbreaking or anything, but it was expensive.
Well, the hobby, they always turn to the hobby for inspiration anyway, so we lead the world. But
absolutely. Now, go on, mate.
Well, did you see that thing? For some reason, that event back in December 2023, where all those drones were flying over that American airbase, has resurfaced in the news wires.
Yes.
There's more proof that remote ID is a complete waste of time.
Well, absolutely, but it's interesting that it's come back, and people are saying, "Oh no, it could be alternative." They're shrouding it in like the black technology Area 51
UFOs,
sort of, wow, it could be some technology we've just really not got the handle on, and that's why we're not detecting it. But I did notice that popped back as well, and wondered why. Why is that popped back? What is the trigger for that? Because I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. It was, and then they had these. But do you remember a few years ago? There was all those multiple clusters of lights in the sky at night over military bases. It smacks of that again, doesn't it? It's
Chinese hot air balloons. There's a little bunch. You put a cotton thing in it. They're floating. That's what it is. Chinese spy balloons.
Spy balloons. Yeah. And very sadly, Swoop Aero in Australia, in Melbourne, have gone into receivership. Not quite sure why. I couldn't actually bring myself to
Remind people what they did, because
delivery drones. Well, do you remember when that's another company that's come and gone during our tenure on YouTube. Do you remember we called him when he was in Vanuatu? Do you remember with that live to Vanuatu?
I don't remember nothing. I'm old.
Oh, okay. It was a good few years ago now. And they were flying really good delivery drones that they'd made up. Done a lot of work with the UN and that actually could be part of the problem. Shall I say it? Yeah, I'll say it. Because I know that certain parts of the UN and the World Health Organization are terrible, terrible payers. Terrible payers.
Yeah.
And that
it's not the concept of drone delivery that's flawed.
No, look out. Oh, no,
there's a troublemaker trying to break the door.
There's a troublemaker's coming in. Here he is.
Oh, I don't know. How's your shares in Lillian going, Louis? What's all this in the background?
Oh, we're coming back to ourselves about 15 times over.
Put your headphones on, Louis.
No, I just came to see because one of these days I got a notification that the channel I subscribed, the YouTuber was going to jail because he was not obeying the rules and regulations. And now that I saw the guy is still free, so I wonder what happened. Or he's with a brace ankle. So he's on the house surveillance.
Well, you wouldn't know. Yeah, you wouldn't know if we had the ankle bracelets on now.
Yeah.
That's why we sat down.
Yeah.
Yeah. The council. I was actually going to ask you about that. How you getting on with the council? And what I was actually going to ask you, Bruce, is because I don't know if everyone's seen Bruce's last video about why he's not filming at the airfield anymore. Why don't you just fly from a different place?
Well, there's all sorts of logistics. We have the New Zealand drone regulations are the main reason. I can't fly anywhere within 4 kilometres of the council's airfield without the council's permission. So even on private land, 3.9 kilometres from the threshold of the runway, I still need the council to give me permission. Even if I'm flying a tiny whoop just above my head, I still need the council's permission because the civil aviation regulations in New Zealand are 10 years out of date. They're ridiculous. They make no allowance for the different size and weight categories of craft. They're all the same risk. They make no allowance for the fact that if you're 3.9 kilometres to the side of an uncontrolled rural airfield, you're not a threat to aircraft coming and going from that airfield. None of that's, it's just like complete idiots making the rules, and they're not being updated. They're not being changed. They're supposed to be changed 2 years ago. That's all fallen by the wayside now. The changes they have made mean that when the new Civil Aviation Act comes into effect next year, the police will have more power to enforce the rules that we've got. That's just what the hell.
Hey, Bruce, I heard you're to blame for that New Zealand Navy ship, the
that was
run
me.
aground.
That was me. Well, she was sailing BV Loss. I'm sure she was.
Yeah.
Just to show you
Yeah.
what.
Oh no, let's not do that. Oh no, we won't do that.
Too close.
Yeah. that was no good at all. No, that was that was quite a thing. I suppose that has been quite big news in New Zealand.
Yeah, well, actually, it hasn't been as big a news in New Zealand as overseas, to be honest. I've seen all sorts of things like the Daily Mail's lapping it up. A lesbian ship commander crashes boat into fragile reef, and all. It's like, but I mean, fancy that sinking our navy. Next thing you know, they'll take the stepladder off our space program.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't got a retort to that for the Air Force, but that's very good. That's very good. Now, you've probably seen I've been sent this Chinese thing. I know DJI is Chinese.
I put a comment on your video.
Did you? Oh, well, there's so many.
Made by a company with a faulty keyboard that sticks with the letter I and the letter E and one.
Yeah. And it also seems to have... no, it's what's it called? Phoenix. No, Phoenix.
Phoenix. How come they sent you that? Didn't they want it?
Yeah.
Sorry, that looks like a VD.
It's all sorts of other things. But what I wanted to now I'm not going to be able to get them off. But what lock them that way, so unlock them must be that way. Now I can't get them off. When maybe pull it out. When it arrived, all the propellers fell off.
Are they folding across? Do they fold
no,
up
they're not.
with the descent?
And I've taken one off properly. They got so they've got a spring there, and all that holds them in is just that you push it down and turn it against this. So hashtag not worried much, and it genuinely would not start earlier. It would not start. I thought I'll put it away, and then it decided to work. So that's like confidence inspiring.
Did it have enough satellites the first time?
Yeah, it had more than 12. The whole went 12 up to 20, but it was going up. Yeah, I did wonder that as well. No, but yeah, was it
level? Was it even? But that trampoline didn't have a little angle on it, did it?
Well, once a child stopped bouncing on it, maybe that. So yeah, it's always a good idea to take off from a trampoline. It's very safe when they land. Yeah,
the landings are better on trampolines. Hard not to bounce though.
Absolutely. And then I'm assuming I will try and make a map for that. I'm assuming in the feet there is an antenna. I'm assuming it's in there.
You'll know once that bit breaks off. You'll know because you see the wire. It's got retractable undercarriage. Does that fold up once you take off?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you have to. What you have to do is you have to go when you're flying.
Like an Inspire, really, isn't it?
You have to make the noise. Look, I mean, but it's expensive. I think it's over $400.
Well, it's not expensive, really, but it's heavy, isn't it? It's not 250 grams or less.
No, it's got remote ID. It's got remote ID built in. So the first thing I have, and then in the manual, it's got in no way are the pages about remote ID confusing, in that they're screen grabs from the FAA website in very, very small writing. So yeah, that's not confusing anyway. But yeah, it's there, so I'll finally be able to switch it on and then look at my phone and see if there's an aircraft with remote ID nearby and test that, because of course I've never had that. And it takes forever. Now that's I said to them, no, I don't really want to. No, I don't. And then they were quite insistent. I said, well, I only really want to do something that's got a fairly decent camera so that we can make a map or something. And so they sent me this one, the Pro one. And it takes, now you might have some thoughts on this, it takes forever to take a single photo, like multiple seconds. Why? You hit click and it's big clock goes round. Do you think they're scraping the...
Just check the little drive motor for the film. It might be sticky.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Maybe the hamster's half asleep and have to wake him up first with his crayons. I don't know.
Bruce, it's easy. Just don't take pictures. Use video.
Yeah, just use video and grab a frame.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if that's what it's doing in actual fact.
Is it reading the SD cards now too?
Sorry?
You said it didn't read the SD cards when you started.
I know. Once I formatted it, the SD card in it, I got it to read one. But that's what I had to do. Yeah, yeah.
So that's one more reason for you to buy the Air 3S, right?
But the Air 3S camera's not as good as the Mavic, is it?
The Air 3S, it has grown up to be almost the old DJI Mavic 3. So the initial DJI Mavic 3, it's 700 or 800 grams, 1-inch CMOS. So it looks like a little smaller DJI 3, Mavic 3. So, yeah. One more from DJI, one more to be blocked in US. And did you guys saw also the news that apparently some retailers are getting?
I was just pulling that up. Yeah, I don't know. Or trying to pull that up. I don't know how real that was. Because it didn't make enough. If that was really happening, people would have been jumping up and down hard. And
on your trampoline.
On my trampoline. That's exactly what it's up. Yeah. It's why it's out there, so I can jump up and down for things. No, I'm not sure. What did you think, Lee?
I really don't know. There's something strange about that. But hey, it's US. One can never know.
Yeah, so, no, I saw that, but it was only a couple of places that said it in the end. And
is that the country that doesn't have enough money to throw away rockets and now has to grab rockets on the launch pad?
I don't know what you felt the first time you saw it, but I thought it was extraordinary. I thought it was absolutely extraordinary.
I thought the robot doing rock, scissors, paper was better.
Oh, God. I got that picture. Let me try to open up this picture. I got the picture. One guy in.
Did you check it was broadcasting red? You're right, Dan. You're absolutely right.
Was the drone they filmed it with broadcasting red?
Oh, that would be a fun thing to set a receiver up nearby to watch that coming, wouldn't it? That would be fun. Optimus won't go his drone in that you've been spoiled for years. It's with the plastics in this. It's funny, isn't it? It's in some ways it's not necessarily how it flies, but how it feels and all that sort of thing. It just feels that level of cheapness, you know. Just imagine that. But for I think a hefty price. But if I can get some stills or a video out of it and make something, a map or something, then that'll be cool. I've got a couple of jobs I need to do, so yeah, we'll see. And then maybe I don't know I don't think it has any advantage over anything from DJI in a similar price range, though. If it was much cheaper, no.
Well, that's an advantage over DJI.
Well, DJI is not geofenced in most of the world now.
It's still geofenced around airports and things.
True.
It's still geofenced. Others are, for instance, the hotel ones are not geofenced. So you can manage to use the hotel if you want to, or if you need to. So that should not be a problem.
I'm
We're
looking
back
for
to
that.
Gaussian splatting.
Oh yes, I do like. But I like that. I think that's definitely got a. That's reminds me very much of the early days of using photogrammetry or drone photogrammetry. What was it thing that Microsoft thing that everyone used before?
Yeah.
Microsoft
Photosynth and ICE.
Photosynth was so fantastic, and ICE too.
Yeah.
And they had another one that I managed to find on an old computer, Microsoft Hyperlapse Pro.
Yes, that's right.
Used to work quite well.
Oh, Simon's mentioning Gaussian splatting. Yeah, I'm using. What am I using? I am using a thing. I even paid money to subscribe to it because I'm using it to splat up the wife's sculptures, not that one, but other ones and things, and get them ready to 3D model if we have to, and it's very, very good. So I see it as
there's something that you also might want to try. It's the one from Unity. What's it called?
Where's my phone? It's upstairs. I can't remember what. Yeah, it's no good, is it? I'm not using anything really because I can't remember what it's called. That is
it's Dell splat.splat.
Yeah, splat.splat.org.
We're not old men. That's what it is.
I can't remember. I've got my phone. I have to go and get my flipping phone down from upstairs. I'll just show you some of the things I've done on it, but it's very good. AI cushion design is the next big thing. AI cushion,
especially the burning one.
Oh, AI cushion. Oh, yeah. I'm with you now.
What I meant was reality scan.
Oh, yeah, reality. Oh, yes. Yeah. I know that one, I think.
Oh, there's far too much reality in the world already. Bring on the hard drugs, I say.
Oh, okay. I'll look at the Unreal one.
Now.
And is it on Android as well? Yes, it is. All right. Yeah, I'll definitely have a look at that because they're very good. I've used the face creating stuff in Unreal Engine, and it's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. And the other thing I've been playing with, as we normally do, going off topic a lot, this week is Notebook LM. Now that's the first AI tool that I think I've.
What, the Llama?
Notebook LM. You chuck in your documents.
The one from Google. Oh,
yeah.
The one thing I really like is for it to make the podcast with two voices.
Yeah. Well,
I had so freaking funny.
I annoyed my colleagues at school because what I did was I got the children to put their work in and then chuck out one of the podcasts, and then I played it to the others in the staff room, and I said, "I just took the children about 10 minutes to do this," and they were, "You get."
Would you let Google AI do anything? It's so wrong most of the time. Gemini is useless. I put that thing on Twitter. Did you see my tweet?
No, I didn't.
I asked it. I asked it if drones need to be registered in New Zealand, and it came back with an authoritative answer: yes, all drones 250 grams or larger must be registered with the CAA in New Zealand, which is absolute crap. So I corrected it, and it said, "Of course, you're right." Well, if it knew I was right, why did it tell me something that was wrong?
Well, this one, because but it's only looking at the information that you give it.
Yeah, but the algorithm is still obviously unable to determine truth from lies.
No.
Yeah. And that's
so it might misinterpret your own data. Bogus information.
Bruce, do one thing, and I did that already. point him as a source of information, give him the site of CAA, and ask him what are the current drone regulations, and it gives you a good answer.
Yeah.
Well, let's do that. Where would we get that from? Where do you go to the top of that then?
I went to the Portuguese CAA, so I went.
But it doesn't But it only scrapes the landing page, doesn't it? It doesn't scrape the whole site.
No. It goes forward.
Does it?
Come on, I did that for. I do have a super duper instruction manual for Ardo pilots. I scraped the wiki, and now I just ask my LM. I need to do this, and it tells me do this, and that.
All right. Well, let's do it. I'm going to add this. I'm going to add it to here, because if you've got manuals and stuff like that, it is going to be jolly useful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a website link. I'm going to go this. That's your aviation.government.nz, isn't it? I'm sure it only scrapes. I thought I only scraped the one page, but let's see what it does. So what do we want to ask him?
It still lies. I've just done a query referencing CAA's website, and it's still telling me bullshit.
Well, let's see. What does it say for? What did you?
Can I fly a DJI Mavic 3 drone in New Zealand?
I asked it using information from caa.gov.nz. Can you tell me if I'm allowed to fly over public land with my drone?
Well, I think the Mavic 3 might be a bit.
No, you have to be more.
Right, can I fly my drone over private land? This is not. It's not a very compelling demonstration, is it?
It's not. I believe it's not scraping the. You have to go to a deeper. You have to go to a deeper link on.
All right, let's go.
New Zealand we have a link.
Regulations and what does UAV coach do? Is he a?
No idea.
Let's see. All right, here's one that's /drones. Let's add that to it, so we can add another source to it, and we can add your videos, Bruce. And obviously, that will put up absolute nonsense.
They'll completely destroy any credibility. And
yeah, is there a document? I'll try and get some here. Intro to Part 101 rules. Do you know what Part 101 rules are?
Yeah, that's our drone regulations for recreational or non-commercial use. Or it's commercial. Actually, there's no distinction, but it's the base level of regulation. 102 basically provides you with exemptions to some of those for commercial operators that have got the certification required. It's a dog's breakfast.
Just dog's breakfast. Well, I'm adding in this one, and then we'll ask it again. And then we'll say, fly my drone over private land. This week on Watching Paint Dry, will be. Here we are. This. Can you read that? Let's have a look at that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's now come up with a decent answer.
Yeah, that's more sensible.
Oh God,
yes.
We have a LLM that agrees with you, so that's not.
Yeah. It says it's highly advised
or impossible to get consent. It might indicate that your drone operation is too risky. That's rubbish. Just because you can't find out who owns the property doesn't mean it's a risky operation.
Yeah, that's true. They must have. Well, where was I? I just read it as you said it. Right. So that's this point. That's actually in the document. That it says that in their source document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that? What site's that from?
That's coming
from one of the links that he
that's
provided.
not the CA. That's airshare. This is not regulation. This is just secondary information. So it's not regulation.
Well,
that's
the thing is, we can add sources here. Just keep adding and find if you had some good solid ones. But also, if we get a notebook guide, this is what he's talking about. I'm sure you've heard them. It'll take a few seconds. But we'll have a podcast, and it's a bit horrible. It's a bit horrible how it talks. Fat is rubbish.
Can't be horrible than us.
But it's so funny.
Yeah, it is. Flux One model for image generation. Flux One model. I've got to look at that. Lizard people. But again, this is what you have to teach. You have to show the children this at school, because you can say to them, you can fill it full of rubbish, and you can make very authoritative sounding rubbish that you can then check out. So you are filling it up with whatever you're either going to use it for good or evil, aren't they? And most 12-year-olds will use it for evil. It's a given.
And the real worry is if you feed it stuff that's been generated by other AI. Compounds the errors. This is a disaster. The internet will dissolve into a pile of useless rhetoric.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that it's not already, but
No, quite. I want to look at this Flux One model now. What's that? What is that?
Does it have a capacitor in it?
It must be. Now, Carl's in the comments. He's on AI. All right, I'll look at that later. In the comments, I'm wondering what his thoughts on Volo. Well, Carl's a troublemaker with the volocopter thing earlier, and also his thoughts on maybe we could pull him in. You up for that, Carl? If you're listening out, I'll pull you in, and you can give us the comments. Let's stop sharing that while we're waiting. Let me get a link, invite him across, because I think we are at the beginning of the end of volocopter, Lilium, and all the other things, the proper beginning of the end of it now, and thank goodness for that. That's what I say. No one's
easy to bleed out on the cutting edge, isn't it?
I suppose so. Yeah, but I was very disappointed that Swoop Aero met its end, because of course they had a huge investment, or not. They didn't have a huge investment. They turned down a huge investment not long ago. And that
what annoys me with a lot of this pie in the sky venture capital stuff is that people go in there promising the earth and raking up all this investor capital at a time when they're never going to succeed, and it's all just rubbish. And then when things finally come around to the point where you can produce a viable solution, it's almost impossible to get funding, because people have said, look, this has been funded in the past and failed. So it destroys the chain further downstream. I've seen it happen many, many times in different industries where that's happened. Once this thing becomes viable, those who are working in it and can produce a product that will work can't get the funding to do it, because those who have come before have destroyed the confidence of the investor marketplace.
Very much. And they use the term jet all the time with Lilium. I mean, I suppose it's a jet of air, isn't it? I mean, I'm trying to be generous.
Surely if you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars in companies like this, you would hire an expert to do some due diligence for you. Are these claims viable? Would this work? Does this defy the laws of physics or the technology we have at the moment? Would they just go, ooh, shiny, here, have $100 million? It's like, these people don't deserve to have this money. So, they deserve to lose it.
Well, they've burnt through $1.5 billion. Yeah. $1.5 billion.
Yeah, so same like the Martin jetpack in New Zealand. I mean, they went through huge amounts of money, including taxpayers' money, and we all knew this is just a flight of fantasy. It's never going to be a viable thing. And two idiots with a bloody skidoo motor in the back screaming at 10,000 RPM, it's just not going to work.
Pardon? Pardon?
Yeah, exactly.
What was that you say?
And the thing is that it was the whole thing, right? I've told you before, but right from the start, they didn't understand what they were doing, because they rang me and said, look, these things are really hard to control. Do you have any ideas? I said, what sort of IMU are you using? What's that? And then when I told them, you want it to be stable by default and the pilot has to deviate from the stable position, make it easier to fly, that sounds good. So they went to, I think, McDonnell Douglas and bought a state-of-the-art, hugely expensive thing. They could have used a flight controller out of a quadcopter for the state of development they were at and got just the same results, but they blew God knows how much on expensive, mil-spec stuff, which wasn't necessary. It was only ever going to be an ultralight.
Well, that's going to be the next. I think. Well, in fact, it's handy that Louis is here. I think that's going to be the next gameplay by the established vendors, is to insist on, was it DO178? I can't remember what number it is for autopilots, but I can see them getting very angry and insisting that everybody uses. Is it DO178C? I really can't remember.
The military specification for code revision. That costs a fortune and has to include some very specialized.
It's going to be interesting. Everyone will be using mil-spec flight controllers, except the people in Ukraine who are doing multi-rotors.
Absolutely. But unless they do that, unless they really can get that sort of protection, very much like the DJI, the US DJI band thing, unless they can get that sort of protection in, they're going to struggle to get numbers of stuff out.
I just saw one video on YouTube from Wall Street Journal about the drone pilots in Ukraine. So you see them practicing on DJI FPV, so with the DJI remotes, and then flying Radio Masters and all the stuff. So, hey, welcome to the military specifications for code reviewing. So,
but they'll be able to use the Rotor Riot flight controllers. They're Blue approved, aren't they?
And NDAA approved.
NDAA,
I don't think they're Blue List approved.
Oh, they'll give them a coat of paint. They'll come up fine.
Exactly. And apparently, there we are. Dan Moss saying 10K per line of code. That's the thing. But I can't. The established vendors must be getting very, very, very angry. Very, very
AI
angry.
Write the code for free almost. They use AI to write the code. That's one of the strengths of AI.
Or check the code. Check the code to the spec, because that's what you need, isn't it? But surely the established military vendors are going to be they've got to be thinking, what on earth can we do now? What a differentiation can we make? How can we make them keep buying our stuff?
But you got to laugh. You know how they're going about, DJI has got spying on America. We've got to ban DJI. You realise that that foreign actors have had a position in the network of internet in the USA for a long time, and they've been spying on stuff through the stuff they planted there. Where is the national security on your most vulnerable thing, the internet? You're worried about drones flying around. Well, you've got these bloody state-sponsored actors with a presence and monitoring and throughout the internet, all the ISPs and things. They could have shut down nuclear power stations, all that sort of crap. But they, don't worry about that. It's the drones we've got to worry about. It's just like,
Well, then foreign actors own great blocks of buildings don't they, up to defense places. So if you own all the land and have cameras on there, and you could go on forever with all the considerations. But that, as Louis mentioned when he came on, that little ban of, or that trouble with imports was potentially interesting, but I personally think it was vendors having trouble, probably not paying their bills and not getting their stuff through. I don't think it was that.
Yeah.
If it was, we'd all know about it. People would be screaming from the hills. So I don't think it's that at all. But we shall see what comes out of it. But I think the big military vendors have got a problem now. And I wouldn't want to be a tank maker now, or an APC maker, or anything like that. It's
no,
their advantage is gone. Gone. Because Jones do lower the bar for people doing nefarious activities. Well, yes, they do, but then so do many, 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 many other things. It's, I don't know. No one's joining in on that. I thought one of you might help me with that.
You know the incident I'm talking about with the ISP attacks with the China. I sent you a link in the private thing. You know, you're aware of that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was reported about a week ago that AT&T, Verizon were basically infiltrated by Chinese hackers that have been monitoring all the network traffic for goodness knows how long. Yeah, they're worried about drones. It's just crazy stuff.
Yeah, and that's real pattern of life stuff, isn't it? I wonder, how did they get in there? Salt Typhoon. What a good name.
Great, isn't it?
What a good name.
Especially with the climate change going on.
Flax Typhoon. Did they get in through hardware or through the software?
I'm not sure. I haven't actually. I read it and I've forgotten because I'm old.
Change your passwords regularly. What was that?
I go from pass 123 to pass 234, and then pass 345. They'll never think of that. Never crack that.
What was the name of your first school again? What was your first house? What was that again?
Yeah.
What was your first telephone number?
But China are claiming that they've got quantum computers that can crack the AES encryption now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're buying them from Canada. The D-Link system from the Canadian D-Link computers, they reckon they've used those to crack AES. So nothing is safe.
As MTV says, it's a good thing no one has Chinese iPhones at nuclear facilities. Yes, thank goodness. I wonder if they don't. Oh, look out. Look out. Oh, he's joining us. Hey, how's it, Keggy? How you doing? Long time.
Oh, with a keyboard like that, you should make drones.
Yeah. So,
apologies. Come on, my Google browser was just, I've not used it for ages. And it just needed updating. So, how's things?
Well, it's all good, but I want you to tell me about Lilium and Volocopter and all the things that are happening there.
Yeah, I've been upset a few people, haven't I? Well, I mean, the issue is, and we'd said this a few years back about both Lilium and Volocopter, about their overall narrative. And I went and spoke to the guys of Volocopter and I said, look, when Dirk Hoke joined, I said, listen, you're coming from this aerospace industry and you're highly respected. So this is a startup. You could use some help. And, there's a few pointers. And there was like this arrogance. And it's the same for the guys in Lilium. And I met them about a year and a half ago. Same thing. Pure arrogance. Didn't know what I was talking about. And I was like, you're going to burn through a lot of cash, I said, and you're going to crash. I said, listen, I've done this type of work for massive companies. I mean, big internet companies and British Telecom for pretty much similar amounts of money to what you guys are dealing with. And I've usually been sent in to like clean up the mess. And they were just looking at me like it was some kind of imbecile. I said, look, well, I'm offering you some help. Some of it's for free. I said, but the rest of it I'll charge for. But here's the way I would do things a certain way. And no, just totally dismissed out of hand. Well, here they are now. And, can't say too much about it, but let's just say some of the VCs have reached out to me about, what could be a possible way forward for these guys. And I'm sort of at the point where I think, certainly with Lilium, I think there's very little that can be done there. Volo, there's some possibilities, but again, it's not going to be around advanced air mobility. It's going to be more like heavy lift UAS capabilities for the military, and I think there's a potential there. But that's where I believe it is at the moment, and I can't see anyone but Saudi Arabia bailing Lilium out right now. I can't. There's a good chance that might happen. Say no more on that. Because they tend to really like that type of thing. But again, what they'll probably insist upon, obviously, is it going to Saudi Arabia or certainly coming out of Germany and going somewhere a little bit more neutral for them. But that's the only survival I could see for them. I can't see any other VC throw money in. The German government can't throw money in because if they do it for them, then they've got to do it for pretty much anything that goes kaput in that kind of way. But I think still today, the problem at hand, and I've come right out and said it, is it's not just the management teams, it's the boards who are running these things as well. Again, there just doesn't seem to be any accountability. And if you think about it, these guys are burning through a couple of million a week. I mean, it's incredible.
Especially with no product. There's no product.
All the features in the foyer.
No definable market. And
yes.
Imagine going to a VC and say, I've got an idea. It's in a highly regulated industry, but nobody's written the rules for it yet. I'm going to basically challenge the price of a helicopter seat massively, even though there's not a lot of data to suggest that general Joe public's going to get on a helicopter anyway. But here's all these assumptions, and I think even a primary school kid can work out the mathematics and go, that doesn't add up. But yet, give it enough gusto to the right VC, it's okay. Let's rock. There's 500 million. That's a great idea. It's like, so in hindsight, you start looking at these things, and then you start to look at the drone industry right now, and obviously, Swoop today has been
terrible.
It is terrible. And here's the thing, guys. We're seeing this in the industry a lot at the moment, and you've got guys who you think, do you know what, they're a great company, they're moving along, but here's the issue: their cash burn's horrific, and then the VC just gets a little bit of bad sentiment, or I don't know, they get some kind of a margin call on another one of their ventures where they really need to restock the bank, and they just can't go for the next round, and they say, sorry guys, can't participate. Them guys know that it's 6 to 12 months to get a new VC ignited and to fund operations. But if you're burning tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands a week, you're done. It's over. You just cannot sustain at that level. And I think that that's what's happened. But what's quite terrifying is when you start to look at people like Mana and other people like that, it makes you wonder, because Bobby's a great guy and he's been on a few times, and I love listening to Bobby. And one thing I really enjoy about him is he's totally the optimist no matter what, but he's quite honest about things. There comes a time when obviously it's that investor sentiment. It just doesn't go your way, and then that's it. And in a New York minute, you're gone. And I think that's problematic. And I think what's really worrying about Swoop is they were the closest guys to Zipline in the industry. I believe.
Absolutely, I 100%.
And I think the scary part of it is again, what they were doing was great work. Above and beyond it being like a darling in the drone industry, and I've gone as much as saying that, they were doing really good work. And you could say, well, look, there's a lot of cases why that should survive. And all of a sudden it gets snuffed. So again, it starts to make you then wonder about, okay, how much money is Zipline? We know about market caps. Everyone understands that. But the reality is, what are these guys actually making in revenue? And are the VCs now becoming a bit more hard-nosed and saying, well, actually, no, well, what is going to be my ROI in the next 3 years? And if we can't see something that's solid there, then they're just switching the light off. And I think it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. I think it's a good thing where there are certain companies that just need to go and die. I think it's a bad thing for the ones that do actually mean something, like Swoop. So yeah, it's just one of those things. But again, I think what we need to find out as an industry as a whole in regards to Swoop is what were the catalysts, how they ended up where they are. Because I think that the thing that puzzles me is they were offered 100 million. Now, I've seen this before in the telecoms industry, and I was working with a company, and Cisco offered to buy them out in 2001 for about 48 million. And that company was a $1 million company all day long. As soon as that CEO of that company and one of the shareholders realized that Cisco were willing to offer 48 million for that company, they thought, we can squeeze them for 60. The next year they were out of business because Cisco just walked away. So I'm wondering if this is a factor of maybe something like that. You know, is it something like that? Because 100 million for where they were and their raises, I thought was, again, you were looking at like a 3 to 4 times multiplier. That wasn't bad. I think what's happened is I think there's a fixation now in this game where people are not interested unless it's a 10 or 20 bagger. And until it's that, no, we're not interested, we'll turn that down. But obviously, if they've done that and they've misread where capital was 10, 15 months ago, then yeah, this is just a complete flaw at management level and board level as opposed to anything else. So I think we just got to find out what it was. And I think it will come out of the woodwork sooner rather than later.
With things like Volo and Lilium, I mean, if things change, I mean, I was involved in quite a few startups, you know, going around the turn of the century, and I walked away from a lot more of them than I actually invested in because we did due diligence. You know, like someone comes to you and says, oh, we've got this pixie dust and it's going to do all these amazing things. And you look at it and go, yeah, that pixie dust would create a new market. It would take over. It would generate huge amounts of revenue. And you say, well, show me some of the pixie dust. And they say, well, we don't actually have the parts for the pixie dust. Yes, we can't make it yet. But when we make it, so we want $100 million now so we can start making it. And this is what the eVTOL and AAM market is at the moment. We don't have a solution to the problem that they have said they're going to solve. So they're selling something they can't deliver. And surely the venture capitalists have people on teams, you know, with technical background that can investigate the claims and come back with the same obvious things that we have, that it's simply not economic because of the limitations of the battery technology. And we haven't even done a market analysis to determine there's a demand for this product yet. You're saying there'll be a demand, it's much cheaper, but even if you could sell rank stale water for $1 a bottle instead of 10, no one's going to buy it because they don't want it. The basics of investing seem to have been set aside in search of this holy grail of massive returns on investment. Is this what's happening?
Well, I think so. And I think, you know, Florian from Quantum Systems, you know, he came out and said it, you know, the other day beautifully. And he said, half of this hype and a lot of what's been going on in this industry in general, not just advanced air mobility, but also the drone business, has been this FOMO that seems to be going around LPs and VCs at this moment in time. But again, I think what we're starting to see now, and this is good for guys like us who actually understand the dynamics of the business and understand business, you know, shock horror, is that I think that the LPs now, they're starting to look at the VCs and looking at what's going on, what's going wrong. And I think Lilium and Volocopter pointed straight out. And it's like, what is it you're actually looking for in regards to these teams to build this next generation technology? And when you've got entities like the Department of Defense and others, and they're now turning to the likes of, you know, the fabulous, I mean, you know, as I say, I've got friends there, Anduril Industries at the top of Anduril, and other companies to go and build the next generation of killer drones or whatever. And they're not turning to the likes of, you know, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, RTX as they're known now, and all them companies. Again, I wrote about the nav plan 24 the other day and went into quite some detail about it. And if you look at it, there's been a turning point now where, and we're seeing this in the UK at the moment, where they're awarding contracts to really small companies in the measure of things. But again, VCs are not getting onto this. That if the DoD and the likes of the MOD are starting to look at the smaller companies and starting to back them for the technologies, because guess what, they can probably deliver and they've got people that know what the hell they're on about, then why are VCs, or why the LPs who basically feed the VCs their money, not saying, right, listen, here's the new rules. If you're going to invest more than X million in that company, then we want some practitioners of sense, like, I don't know, Gary or whoever, to be on that board or be an advisor to the company and if there's anything that's going on, it's got to be run by him for, a bit of a reality check before we start spending silly money on it. And it's not that VCs want to play Mother May I with their cash. I think that's the wrong idea, and I don't want to send that message out. But there's got to be some checks and balances here, because I think, I'm trying Valancy. When Valancy went out of business, and we drains up on Valancy, and they bought like a hangar for $23 million and runway rights for something that was a VTOL takeoff thing that could fit in this part of my office. What was that about? No wonder that went out of business. So, and I don't think that's an isolated case with advanced air mobility. And I think I was making a lot of comments around the time of the Olympics when Volocopter was supposed to be showcasing the Olympics.
The problem with the VCs, and I've seen this at least twice, is that they try to get people that do the due diligences, and the people that are doing the due diligence are not techie or savvy enough on what they're looking at. So if you paint them good enough PowerPoint on the presentations, the due diligence people will come astonished with all the technology, all the buzzwords, all the things, and you just need to do cross-check a few boxes. Do you run this on a safe environment? Yes. Do you do this? Yes. But the fundamentals, the innovation, it's on the PowerPoint. So the VCs go after. So perhaps the VCs should know better. And if they go after a Volocopter or a Lilium or whatever, they should try to understand, to get people to advise them better. Because it can be, let's say, it can be a business in the future if properly managed.
I think we should point out at this stage that all of the people you see on the screen here are available for consultation at a reasonable rate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. huge amounts of money.
There's been a few things that I've been looking at lately and I've been working on, and one of them's been in direct energy weapons. And, it's no secret, there's a bunch of guys I used to work with out of Manchester University, and we were tasked with getting a suicide bomb detection system working that the Americans had failed to materialize. Well, they did actually get it to work, but it weighed 2 tons and you had to tow it around on a Humvee and point it at people. And if they were closer than 100 meters, it wouldn't detect. And if they were more than 110 meters, it wouldn't detect. So they had to be in a sweet spot and they had to turn around. So it was quite pointless. And we ended up making a handheld version of this that could go the same distance and give you the same readout. We did it for £600,000. And after we developed that, there was a big shock horror, and then it disappeared into the ether of, wherever it needed to go. And that was it. So I've worked with quite a few clever people, and we've maintained a really good relationship. And we had some ideas around, commercial off-the-shelf parts that could be used to do some kind of a directed energy weapon way back when. And then we realized that some of that technology just wasn't where it needed to be. Well, last year that technology got where it needed to be, and DASA were approached, and anyway they threw £250,000 at it, and it went to TRL level 3, and now it probably needs about 10-15 million to take it to TRL 7 or 8. You've got 2 massive defense companies who've been looking at DASA and looking at the findings and gone, eureka, it works. And obviously they want to work with us to do this now. But again, you go to a VC and say, well, I've got 2 of the biggest defense companies that want to partner with us. They're actually prepared to take most of the equity of the company, by the way, and partner with us to do this. Or we can bring our own money, pay them for the use of their facilities, give them a little touch of equity, which they'll be happy with. And then we get this to TRL 7 or 8. You've got a $900 to $1 billion company in 18 months' time. Are you interested? Oh, your presentation wasn't up to much, was it? No, no. There's MATLAB calculations in there. what does this mean? What's this segment? And you're like, right, okay, right, get it. So I'll then boil it down in my typical Northern England format of A, B, C, D. It does this, and there's some pretty pictures. And it's, you know, you really need to spend money on your PowerPoint presentations and jazz them up a little bit and, you know, get some moving graphics on it. And I'm like, you know what?
Lots of bullshitware. Don't forget the bullshitware.
Just take something shiny. Take something shiny into the presentation, and then they'll go, "Ooh!"
It is, and I think that one of the biggest problems, and I've got, and despite the fact that most of the business that I'm aiming for doing and the incorporation of my companies is in the United States, despite the fact I am an absolute patriot of the United Kingdom, I love my country. The reality of it is, raising any finance in this country or trying to get an idea off the ground, even when our own government goes, wow, okay, this is like ingenuity at its best. You've got Keir Starmer all over the news going, we've got to invest in innovation in the UK. You can't get a red cent out of anyone at all.
Better actually do it.
Yeah, that's it. So the thing is, it's like the Anduril model. You know, back in the day when Anduril started and it was like a bunch of guys out of a garage, you know, I was talking to those guys way back when, and Christian Brose was starting to write his book after the death of John McCain, and he was talking, you know, the Kill Chain book, and we were talking on a regular basis on the internet. And the difference between the ideas I had and Anduril had was I didn't have $3 billion in my jeans like Palmer Luckey. That was the only difference. But the ideas that they had, their sentry towers, I'd already deployed stuff like that in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, exactly the same kit as they use. Okay, the software system on the back end wasn't quite as good as Lattice, but it had YOLO on and a few other things. For back in the day, it was damn brilliant. But again, there's people like myself who've, you know, gone out to those countries, proved that these things can work, and I come back to the UK and, you know, try and build a business on it. And you're just banging your head on the wall, and that's it. And, you know, there's so many things we could go into in regard to what's going on in the drone business in general. And, you know, there's a few other players out there that are, they're like a fusion of advanced air mobility and big heavy lift drones. And, you know, I came out and, you know, it's like, let me give you an example, Elroy Air. I mean, great guys. I just don't get it. It's like,
it's very complicated.
Absolutely,
very
it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's so complicated. Well, you know, not a lot of people know this, but we got tasked to build 3 Class 2 drones for an oil company about 2.5 years ago, and they'd already gone to a company in the UK that is very well known. And they said, oh, yeah, we can build that for you. And there was a slight hiccup in regards to the fact that they wanted to use 100 volt throughout the drone. And, oh, health and safety, we can't do that no more. So we got asked to take on the project. And we ended up building these 3 aircraft. And with sensors on board, those things were close to 600, 700,000 a piece. Okay, they were massive VTOL drones capable of 600-mile range, carrying a 60-pound payload. And we delivered them on time. And the compromise was, with those drones, they'd already bought Mugen airframes. So we had to use that. They just said, you've got to use them airframes because we've already bought them and the oil company want to use them. And we had to go back to them and say, well, we can use them, but we're going to have to modify them. So we had to practically rebuild the airframes and put all kinds of like safety features in, new clips, everything, reinforced joints, do all of that stuff. And we did it as a team. And when I went to some of the guys in America and showed them what we'd done and showed them the videos of this stuff, they were like, hang on, how could you possibly do that? And when I explained the price that we did it for, they laughed me out the room. And it was like, well, actually, we did that and we made a pretty decent profit on that. So when I see stuff like what Elroy are trying to do, and I love where they've got with the aircraft, and it's like you say about the complication. I was saying to somebody not long ago, said, imagine where you've got just, you go down to the supermarket and they've got those pneumatic trucks that they lift the pallets with. Why didn't they just come up with an idea where you've just got a version of that pallet truck and you just pump it up? It just takes the pressure off the box, and then you slide it off and on with the weight in. Why not do that instead of that? You know, it must weigh about 30, 40 kilos, that pulley mechanism inside, plus the wire, maybe more. And it's like, I look at things like that and think, that could be brilliant, but just simplify it, because that mechanism breaks, the whole drone, the whole reason for it existing, it goes away. So that all boils down to not necessarily just the safety of the airframe, the drone, the avionics, and all of that. It is it's that absolutely complicated lift pulley system. I just
details can kill a project.
Yeah, it's just overcomplication, and
that's
come
on, but it looks so much better on the PowerPoint.
It does.
A specialized brain and gimbal that automatically grabs the system. Come on, that's so much fun. Then, hey, we just open a door and take the package out.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
If you watch Scrap Heap Challenge, you know that hydraulics and pneumatics always break.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I thought, just a good, reliable supermarket tool truck, because you can get them anywhere in the world. Chinese make really good ones as well. That's it. Just a simple little pallet truck, and then just have that for taking it on and off. Just nice and simple, something that's available. You can get it easy, and it just fits them all. Just go there, do that simple. Because if I was building a drone like that, that's exactly the way I'd design it. Simplicity. Yeah.
What I don't understand, going back to the investment side of things for a moment, how do people who are obviously so stupid get to administer venture capital funds, which are so large? They can't be doing it by ethical means, surely.
That's a great question.
Principle. Yeah. Sorry, Peter's principle. You know Peter's principle?
Yeah. Deadwood floats to the top.
Yeah.
Yes. And almost also to swing it back to Swoop as well. Swing it to Swoop. I know certainly in Africa, a lot of the World Health, the World Health are not good payers, and B, a lot of those projects are using large Chinese airframes now, and I think Swoop might not have. Zip lines seem to have the logistics of the actual medicines going from a place to a place to a place to get to where the thing is, and the aircraft, they seem to have all that very, very nicely nailed. I'm not completely au fait with where Swoop was with all that sort of nif and trivia side of it in the back of it. And if they scaled the size of their platform fast enough to keep up with equivalent Chinese platforms, they're lifting more for a fifth of the cost, doing the same thing.
There's also the other factor that we're not taking into consideration, and that's the political factor. Again, these contracts can make and break things. I mean, again, I think we've seen it. I think there's been a lot of criticism about Skydio spending, because obviously there's public records in the US, spending a ton of money on lobby. Well, if your product's good enough, you shouldn't need to lobby. But again, lobbying does actually help, and it does make the world go round, unfortunately, in that part of the world. But one thing I learned, obviously I've spent some time in South Africa. You live there, and I was, back in the day, I was doing a lot of telecom. So Vodacom, Cell C, I designed most of their networks for them, and sold a lot of equipment. And that's where I initially made my name and my money. And South Africa was a big market for me. So I understood it well, but then obviously I went into the likes of, Kenya, Gabon, and all of those other places. And the one thing I found was it just became horrific in the end to even attempt to do business in them places because of the way business works in that neck of the woods. And I'm not saying that Swoop have fell victim to that, but what I'm saying is, again, there is a
difficult place to operate.
Yeah, it really is. So.
Kito Kidogo. Just a little tea. Kito Kidogo.
Yeah, just a little. Yeah,
just a little.
Funny. Yeah, just a little. I always remember, and I was actually in the UN building in Kenya, and I'd gone there with a there was a whole boatload of different companies that went there. And it's like, oh, Mr. Carl, sit down. And, you know, there's like pictures of this like Secretary General all over. Please don't accept me. You know, please don't offer me a bribe. I will be offended. And I'm sat there and he's staring at me watching. He's going, that's a really nice watch. What time is it? I was like, that's it. He said, and he's like, you know, you want that contract? That's it. He says, well, I don't have time to see you right now. What time is it? I was like, that. Come on, mate. Yeah, go on. That's it. It was one of them. And it's like, that's the way it is there. And I just wouldn't subscribe to any of it. And I, you know, to be honest with you, I probably lost hundreds of millions of dollars worth of deals in Africa because I wouldn't accept or go near any of that. And it's still rife out there. You know, you see it all the time, but it's sad. It's really sad. And it's like India as well. You know, God bless them. There's some superb companies, and I've made a lot of friends in India, but they don't stand a cat in hell's chance because of that exact same thing that's going on in India. And it does go on in India. It's actually vile when you see it and you see the government promotion of companies that are just important by the container load from China. Sticker goes on top. Doesn't matter. It's so easy to find out. No, they're politically connected. Close the door. Shut up. Move on. And I got a note. I got a note from a journalist from one of the major newspapers, and they ran an article on something that I posted, and the guy said, "It's my last day tomorrow." He said, "Just to let you know, anything to do with this particular newspaper, just don't include them on LinkedIn anymore." He said it's caused a lot of trouble, and I was like, "Whoa!" So a lot of that issue that was like floating around Garuza and a few other people, I think I trod on. Yeah. So you know, it's just so unfair because as I say, there's loads of really good companies out there, and look, you know, it's no secret that, you know, one or two of them I'm really pally with them because I really like the way they are as people. And if they're in the UK or the US, they always say, "Carl, are you about? Let's go for dinner. Let's just shoot the shit and, you know, go and talk about, you know, certain things," because I think that they're sick to death of their own environment as well, and they're trying to break out of it. And I think the likes of the US and the UK, if they really want to start seeing a real competitor to AI, then they're gonna have to, just help a couple of them Indian companies out a little. You know, of okay, come to the UK, come to the US, we'll invest in you. Let's do some things, because they're never going to do it while they're in India. I'll tell you that much, because there's just too much Chinese money flying around India to stop an upstart. Yeah, that's it, and that's where they're at. So yeah, sad really. I don't think that we're finished before Christmas in regards to consolidations. I think there's, you know, news to do with companies merging together. I think we've got a bit of that coming very soon. And
I think Ehang and Lilium should be great together.
Oh,
yeah.
I was having a conversation with one of our friends, Gary, about you know, what could make Lilium work, and it would mean abandonment of the overall.
Yes.
It's I just said, well, yeah, you could go for like a stall or just a conventional takeoff version of it or something like that with a prop on the back and, you know, use batteries maybe, and maybe you're there, because by the time you've got rid of all inducted fans and stuff, you've probably got the weights to actually stick a human being inside the thing. That's the other thing. It's never been seen with a crash test dummy of a proportional weight to a person flying around an airfield. There's been none of that. And again, that's another big white elephant to do with it. It's like you've not, even the models that you've got now, even though they're not full scale prototypes, you're so far away. And at 1.5 billion, that's horrific. And as I say, I've taken exception to a lot of the ex-Airbus executives that are within management teams or on the boards of these things. And it's like, you're supposed to be like some of the greatest minds in aviation. And here we are. They
just hire them for clout, don't they? They just put them on there for clout.
Yeah.
But is there any? There's just
it's that traditional. It's a traditional VC thing where you have an idea, you fund it, you realize it's not going to work. So then you hire a highly respected person to run it and put some people on the board. Then you float it public, sell and walk away with the gains. And then the poor mum and dad investors walk away with no shirts.
Well, I always remember when I got walked into a venture that was owned by BT, and they said, we've got a company, we put tens of millions into it, it's stateside, shown a lot of promise, but they're hemorrhaging too much money and we want to know why. And I remember walking through the door of this place, and it took me about an hour to work out what Deloitte for £500,000 couldn't work out in 4 weeks. And it's that entitlement of the people at the top of those companies. They think, I'm the CEO of this. I was like a big manager in, I don't know, Boeing or whatever. Now I'm the CEO of this entity, and it's had this much investment, you know, on a cap table. We're probably going to be a unicorn very shortly. So I've made it in the real world. And then that guy is flying first class. He's taking helicopters everywhere. He's taking private jets everywhere. They're staying in the Four Seasons or the George V for, you know, $2,000 a night, or they go to a trade show in Dubai. You know, again, I'm not naming names here, and they're staying in the Burj Al Arab for $4,000 a night. And it's like, this is ridiculous. And that's exactly where the money goes. But these guys never go on their own. They've got an entourage of 3 or 4 people with them. So a trip to Dubai is like $100K by the time they've finished. And if you've got that happening every week, and that's the problem.
If you look at the biggest companies in the world, the most successful ones, they've started in garages.
Yeah. No, if you buy a stand on that exposition, added $250,000. Oh, because you must have a presence.
Absolutely. Well, the lady that runs my marketing, and you'll see I always tag her in my post, Maxine Davenport. She works for Apple. She does their stuff. She does their marketing. She does their events that you see on the TV. And she's been a friend of mine for years. And she doesn't do things for cost, but she charges me like a really good hourly rate in regards to what happens. And she's one of the best people in the world to do that. And again, these guys never look for value. They look for convenience. And that's not the way you run a startup. I mean, I was working with James on something, and you know, James Earl is a close friend of mine, and we were working on some aircraft ideas not long ago, and we were in a barn in the middle of nowhere, working with hand tools and stuff to just try and formulate the idea. I mean, as rough as a bear's arse as you can get, just to work it. And that's where innovation is. It's you know, we've got access to 3D printing, and you know, obviously up until it got flooded.
Oh, James loves his 3D printing. He can see nothing better than having a room full of printers, or perhaps a container full of printers on a battlefield. That's his. He loves that.
He wants a container with a printer in, doesn't he?
Yeah. So, he loves that idea.
So, you know, I'm really big into like tool and molding at the moment over in Florida, because if there's going to be a situation where the Defense Innovation Unit or the DoD says, right, we can't dick around anymore, we need to build drones at scale, then I've got a 30,000 square foot facility there that can accommodate that, and another 25,000 square foot next door to store it all. And the idea of it is, if they say, as an example, we really like what, I don't know, let me just pull some names off the top of my head. We like what Skydio are doing, we like what Red Cat are doing, we like what these other guys are doing, and we need to build these at quantity, and we want a lights out situation whereby you can wake up in the morning and there's like 1,000 chassis of that drone there, 1,000 chassis there, and then there's a production line to deal with them. So that facility now exists in Florida to do that, and nobody has done that in the drone industry at all. They've not thought, well, hang on, these guys can't scale up. None of them can. They don't have the capability. None of them are willing to invest that. So this is why I went around about 4 different tool and mold manufacturers and got agreements with the biggest ones in that part of the US to be able to do that. So if there ever was a situation that turns on like that, then Artemis can sort of like say, well, okay, we can partner with you to do that. You know, we're still in the game of designing our own stuff, of course. But the reality of it is, okay, let's say as an example, I don't know, James designs a new bomber, or there's a Ukrainian company and they've got a really great idea of this long-range drone, or someone says, I've got an idea to do a cheaper Shaheed. Great. Well, okay, how can you build it at scale? You can't. You can build onesie twosies. They're not interested in that. They want 20, 30 a night off a production line. And that's what I'm looking at doing. And it's not like, I don't want to be like a complete and utter gazillionaire, in the industry, but, I want to be a solid businessman that partners with people to get these things done, because that's the only way they're going to make a mark if we do end up on a war footing with the Chinese at some given point, or if tensions rise in the Pacific. So if they want to do that, everything that they're talking about with the replicator program and all of this stuff, it's never going to happen unless you've got guys like me who are going to say, right, okay, that's where the investment needs to be. And that's it. And everything that they're talking about now to do with military drones, that's the only way it's going to happen. Your Lockheeds, your BAEs, all of those guys, I know them well. They're brilliant people and great friends, but they don't want to buy drone companies right now. None of them do. They've got no interest whatsoever. And if you say to them, well, what about a tool and mold scaling facility to build drones? No, not interested in that. What they're going to be interested in is if there's a big enough contract that gets issued by the DoD or the MOD, and someone can help them to be a part of that or bring them into it, where they sort of like loan you the money, and they're like a soft prime to it. That's what's going to change the game. But until then, it's not going to. And on that note, there's a ton of stuff going on, but it's
why aren't you out at AUSA, or are you?
Well, I'm at home, so no, just some personal stuff at home I've had to deal with, and that's it. Again, I've got people who've gone there. I've actually got a call with one of them in a moment, and again, I go to went to Softworks, and I had my fill there, to be perfectly honest with you, and it's just the same regurge of other things. It's always great. I mean, last time I went to see like Firestorm and Dan and the guys, and Brian Sardock and I went out for dinner in Florida, and we did all of that good stuff. But if you go to one of those shows and then there's another one a few months later, it's the same thing, just regurgitated. So if you want to burn a couple of weeks and a couple of £1,000, and it's always worth doing it. But I'm even cautious with the shows as well, because I think there's a lot of glad handing that goes on at the shows as well. And again, I'm a guy. I think it's just an age thing now, where you just listen to bullshit and then you just, I can't even be polite about it anymore. It's like, well, that's bollocks. It's like, they're like, excuse me? And it's like, And
no, you would no, you'd never be like that.
Do you know what? I remember there was a guy there from, and by the way, I love the guys at Shield AI. I do. Dan Imbat is an amazing human being, and Ryan, they're great guys. And there was like this junior guy who just started, their sales guy. And Dan Imbat's going, new guy. I was like, all right. So he goes, so have you got any questions about the aircraft? I said, it's an aircraft. And Dan's like laughing. And I'm like, I said, I know this. There's a rumor that there's like more of these on the bed of the Pacific than there's ever been in the air. Is that true? And this guy's like, I don't think we do a submission of it. And I was wrecking myself and didn't actually get what I meant. And I thought, English humor is just wasted at the US shows. It really is. So some interesting things going on, but I think the Defence Innovation Unit, I think that those guys are deeply frustrated. I think Rapid Capabilities in the UK, they're pulling their hair out right now. I would say that the lady who's running the US Navy has got her head really screwed on. She knows what she wants. She isn't going to mess around. Yeah, I think it's an interesting time right now. But again, her biggest opposition is Congress, because what she wants and what she's going to get are two different things. Because if you look at HII and all of the senators that congregate around the HII facilities, and you know, an amazing company, by the way, again, they're going to want to secure jobs in those areas. And if that means killing autonomous systems in favor of manned submarines, because that's what gets votes where they are, they're going to go with that. So it's always a difficult one. It's like when I look in the UK, you know, and I've got a lot of friends and I've got a lot of respect for Babcock in the UK. And again, those guys, they're building submarines with BAE systems and things like that. And then you've got to look at what's going on with Anduril, with Ghost Shark and things like that. And you know that that's the future. And most of these submarines that they're building now, again, 90% of the real estate is for human beings. And the other 10% is power plant and armaments. And so, yeah, you know where that's going to go. But again, that's, yeah, I think we're just living in really interesting times where we are.
Yeah. Well, that's one I can drop I can name drop as well. I can't remember his name, but somehow at Farnborough, I think it was in 2012, I was having lunch with the head of Babcock. I don't know why, but I ended up on his table. It was like, hey, what am I here? You know, it was very good. It was a good lunch. It was a good lunch.
By the way, I mean, it's like when you look at these companies and you've got the likes of you know, Charles Woburn, and you got David at Babcock, and these are brilliant guys. They are, and they know that there's got to be changes in their organizations. But the biggest problem is the organizations, they're that colossal that even if they instigate a change, and if they were to say, right, okay, you know, the guys on that Tuesday night show, I want all of them to create a new division. I don't want any red tape. Let's call it, you know, the Guys Limited, and they're going to act as a subsidiary, and we want them to do some really crazy shit for us to get us ahead of the game. And he said, that's a CEO directive, get it done. Yeah, the company get formulated, all of that, and then all of them little managers and the mid-managers and then the higher-ups would all start wrapping their tape around the legs of everything. And even though it's a CEO or a board directive, it's going to take 3 or 4 years for that company to do anything. And I think part and parcel of what I'm saying here is, you know, Callan Lenz, you know, great company, and a few people from their organization and their BAE emails. So BAE, basically, they've taken over Callan Lenz, but they've not announced it. So there's a couple of reasons why they wouldn't announce it.
Oh,
they're not going to say it.
Haven't they? No, we didn't say that then. No, we didn't say that.
No.
Oh, BAE might have bought them. No, we didn't say that.
Right off. Yeah. So,
no,
but there's been no
announcement. Allegedly,
yeah. So you've got to look at that. Well, why has there not been an announcement? Because everybody's been talking about it, and emails have been going out left, right, and centre. There's been a couple of whoopsie-daisies on marketing stuff. And I always say to people, well, look, Malloy went into BAE, and we've not heard a dicky bird since. And again, part of that is the whole government prime thing. So you've got a young company that does things a certain way. They go into a big company and that's it. They just get drowned in the noise. I mean, they're like a, you know, full stop at the end of War and Peace in comparison to what BAE do. And I think it's a really interesting thing. And when you start looking at the primes and what are they going to do with autonomy? What are they going to do with drones? What are they going to do with AI? Because they don't seem to be moving in leaps and bounds at all. And,
well, earlier I said, before you came on, I said I wonder if they're going to force the DO 178C or whatever it is, or move to that. Of course, 178.
DO 178C.
But I didn't realise. No, the obvious thing to do is buy the company and move it off to one side. It's just too bugger all with it. That's the easiest way to silence it.
And the problem, the problem that we are referring, it's something that I was seeing today, a podcast with the CEO of NVIDIA that was telling the story of their latest sale of a couple of thousand of GPUs to Tesla. And that those guys managed to build in 19 days what is usually a good result to build in 1 year.
Yeah.
So what needs to happen is to have a DOGE, a Department of Government Efficiency, led by. And there was another picture that I saw today on Twitter that was Twitter with lots of ladies and multicolor and multi-orientation people, a group photo, and the guys of X. And it's half a dozen guys in a picture, all very nerdy and very. It's the difference of attitude comes from the top, but the CEO must enable those guys to do things. Otherwise, it's you get stuck on the previous ways of doing things, and you get all the other guys that see their places at risk and start throwing grenades at you. That's the problem.
And it's, again, I can only speak about what I've done in the past. And when I've gone into situations, I'll give you an example. When I went into the university and they were looking at this suicide bomb detection system, and they were having reflections coming in to the box, and it was sending out a transmission signal. It was acting like a radar, and when it was bouncing back, it was coming back into the receiver. But as it came back into the receiver, there was like an anomaly on the lens, and it was causing it to hit the sides of this 3D printed enclosure and give you like false positives. And these guys are trying to rewrite code and do everything, and I'm like, now that we know what the problem is, it's actually much easier than that, guys. So all these guys are like beavering away doing code and all kinds. And I got a hammer and chisel, and I went to the ladies' toilets on the 5th floor and smashed open all of the sanitary towel napkin machines and pinched all the loo roll. And they're just like, everyone looking at me. I'm coming back with all these sanitary towels there. And I sent one of the lads down to B&Q for a bag of charcoal, and I was like, right, smash that bag of charcoal up with a lump hammer. And I've got the sanitary towels, hairspray, put them on the inside of the enclosure with the hairspray, the charcoal, and then I got the toilet holders, sellotape them together like this, put them all inside like a honeycomb, stuck it inside where the receiver was, and said, that'll do it. And all of these guys are looking at so you're talking about PhDs, like, some of the best brains in the country, and they're looking at me like I'm some kind of imbecile. Not one reflection. Not one reflection.
Stealth technology. I'm not going to get you to do my bathroom, I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you now, if you like charcoal, I'm your man. But it was to get the result quickly, so we could was that the problem, or was it code? And they were thinking they could fix it with code, and it couldn't be, because it was an inherent problem of the radio coming in. But again, it's the way you think about things and the way that you approach them. So I think what did I ended up with a bill for about 390 quid for the machines I broke with a crowbar and the sanitary towels from the university. But the reality of it was, we fixed the problem, and I think we got a quote off somebody to help us fix it for like, I don't know, £82,000, and it was fixed in minutes. And it's this type of like CEO type approach or innovator type approach, where you're showing the team yourself how you would problem solve and do that. And it's like when we were building drones back in the days of Plymouth Rock, before they decided to go and change the direction, and they're now changing the direction back again. So those particular guys, the things that we were doing, we were just waiting for no one. And a lot of people were saying to me about the company and, how did you go from making these sensors and these detectors into drones? I mean, that's just bizarre. And it was that we built a detector and we believed that you could get a drone that could pick a 15-pound weight up, and it didn't exist. So we just built the drone that could pick up 20 pounds and fly for 40 minutes, and we just built it. And it took us a week to build. And it was like, is that how easy the drone business is? Well, actually, yeah, it is. But you just got to get your shit together, just totally get rid of all the noise, all the bureaucracy, and just get innovating. And, if someone's got an idea, that's it. Give them a spanner.
Just do it. Yeah.
Well, this is the problem with increasing levels of specialization. You get the situation where, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But when you've got generalists that see the bigger picture, quite often the solution is much like the one you described, is much simpler. But the coders are only looking for a solution in code because that's all they know. That's
it. And again, there's a guy I've worked with for 20 something years. He teaches the Chinese how to run gigaplants. And he's currently working for one of these companies, making very good money at the moment. And he's like, Carl, when do you want me? Like, I've got to come back. I can't do this anymore. Because he loved the innovation side of things, like running a plant, running a production facility, scaling things, getting prices down. That's his job. The Chinese pay him a lot of money to help them to do it. And he's a UK citizen. He's probably, I would say, an absolute diamond to the UK industry. And again, he makes his money working with Chinese companies to make them more efficient, Korean companies to make them more efficient. He's a Brit. And he now wants to get back to what we were doing at Plymouth Rock and start again and, do it with Artemis or, and again, that's why we've gone for that model of, okay, the tooling and molding side of things, as well as the modular side of things. And, we're still working on techie stuff. But I think for us, it's that tool and mold of being able to build an aircraft quite quick. And Gary, you can help me with this. It slipped my mind. The name of the company that builds that glider out in the US that drops from the back of a plane, wings spring out and fly.
Chip Yates, Yates Aerospace, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, what a brilliant idea! And apparently they're making a motorized version of that.
They are.
That to me is probably one of those phenomenal companies in this industry, and people don't even see it. And it's like, I look at that and I go, forget Sky Joe and everyone else. Just take your hat off, look at that man, and kiss his feet, because that is what you call brilliance.
I wouldn't mind saying that I bet Chips put more of those out the door than Skydio's put X4s and whatever else, X10s.
By far.
I wouldn't mind betting. There all sorts of people are using those in all sorts of places now.
It's just phenomenal. One thing that we were looking at doing is we were going to buy. So I was about to push the button on buying a 1979 Cessna Caravan, and
beautiful.
We were going to, and effectively this thing had it only had about another 600 hours on the airframe, something like that. But 600 hours was enough for what I wanted it for. And I was talking to people at Harden down the road from me and saying, look, I've got some ideas. So obviously the renovations I was going to do to this thing were going to cost a lot more than what I could have bought it for. And you know exactly which road I was going down with this thing. And again, it was just to say, well, okay, you've got proven airframes that are brilliant. Again, they're all approved all over the world. So, okay, it's the autonomy side of it that you've just got to do the sell on, not the airframes, not the engine, none of that nonsense. That's it. Again, get that proved through, because for some of the missions that some of these oil companies were looking at doing, that was a perfect solution to it, because they had airstrips in certain places. And I thought, you go and work with a few of the guys that we all know and some of the guys who come on here, we could have had that work in no time. And again, that's what people seem to be skipping. And I'm looking at glider technology at the moment, self-sustaining gliders, things like that. And again, there's some good ideas around that technology that you could use for, long-range surveillance and things like that, where again, you've got ready-made approved airframes. And I say the only other side of it is the autonomy side of it, where again, you'll go and get, like General Dynamics, you'll go and spend $1 billion recreating that idea that's already there. Well, guess what? That's not ingenuity. Ingenuity is repurposing that technology to do what it is, the capability. There's a capability gap. Let's fill it with that. And it is going to come down to cost. It always will. And I think now...
How much does a trained chimpanzee cost?
Yeah. That's also another good point.
Yeah.
I like it. It's
the
simple answer, guys. Always. So.
It's always a simple answer. Whatever you do in life, it doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, exactly. It always is. And then, and isn't it always? It's probably, hopefully, I think it's probably the same for you guys, that when you see something that is so delightfully simple and elegant to solve a thing, you always think, "God, that's obvious." But I never.
Yeah.
The best things are always, it's just like, oh, that was the obvious way to do it. But blood if I ever
hidden in plain
do
view.
that.
Yeah.
So
beautiful. Yeah. Well, that's it. So I'm going to continue to put my posts up on my perspectives. I don't know if they bore the life out of you. I usually have to drink a coffee when I'm reading my own stuff. But yeah.
It makes me laugh. And again, I've often say it on this, but LinkedIn makes me laugh. Just the pretentiousness of people, it just makes me chuckle. And then you can wind them up. It's really good.
Well, I was having this conversation with one of the guys in our group, Gary, and tonight, and he was saying, Carl, I really enjoy reading your stuff. He said, do you realise there's, out of all the people who are on LinkedIn, there's probably 0.5% who actually create the content that is worth reading. He said, and you're one of them. And I thought, that was nice to hear. And the second time I've heard that tonight, because I do get CEOs of really big companies sending me a note saying, thank you so much for telling how it is. And it's great. By the way, I made everybody in my boardroom read your post the other day, because that is the way the industry is. And again, I've done one on space tonight in regards to a company called VAP. Yeah, that's where the money is for the future. But again, that interests me massively, because the directed energy weapon that we're working on at the moment in the background, that is probably going to end up in space at some point, because it will work very effectively out there, because it's a distributed antenna. And when you look at Epirus and they've got the big truck with the big antenna, imagine backpackable version of that with small antennas the size of an iPad that are disposable. And if you break or if you attack 10 of them, it doesn't matter. If there's another 15 to 20 there, they'll still do the same job. They just up their power. And that distributed antenna effect of directed energy weapons, which is if you like, it's a 500 megahertz blast. So what it does is just kills electronics on everything. So it's just an EMP. And
at 500 megs.
That's the sweet spot. 500 to 1 gig. So little blocks in between them, and that's what fries electronics. Yeah, and it just fries them, and yeah, it does it quite well. So yeah, there's.
Well, you missed earlier on. Bruce was explaining the New Zealand space program. That was quite all the downfall of it, which was a long, complicated and sad story. So we won't go back into that, because we haven't really got the time to explain how they move the ladder. But look, we've nearly been going 2 hours, and you've got a call to go to, Craig. So thanks very much for coming on. I'm going to run away with everyone. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, thanks very much for being there. We'll see you again next week at 2100 Gin and Tonic. Maybe I'll make this Chinese thing make a map, but I don't know. I say that, and of course DJI is Chinese, but this is more Chinese.
Don't you have to paint it green before you fly it?
Blue.
Yeah, maybe. Green. This is green. Yeah, he's not sent me one of those.
You want to be on the blue list, Louis?
It's on blue, exactly. It's blue. It's blue. So, dear viewer, wherever you are, look after yourselves. We'll see you again next week, 2100 Gin and Tonic. Look after yourselves. Be careful out there. It's a cruel world. Cheers all. one click. My mouse died. 1 click, 2 clicks. Bye.